Hey, what's going on, everybody? We are live. It is Wednesday night. It is late, and I'm going to open an action figure. Today, I will be opening the Mattel Masterverse Masters of the Universe New Eternia Man-at-Arms. It's a mouthful, but there he is. I'm really digging these new Eternia figures, as anybody that's sort of following along in my sort of Masters of the Universe journey would be well aware of. The new Eternia stuff is to me very interesting, and part of the reason that I really like the new Eternia stuff is because I in some ways I don't really have the nostalgia for the original stuff. I don't have the nostalgia as much nostalgia for the origin stuff. Those are great figures. I have a whole bunch of them, and I love them. They're great. My kids love them. We can play with them together. But as far as a 6-inch action figure, the Masterverse stuff just works for me. And the new Eternia stuff in particular is what I find interesting because it's to me the new Eternia stuff is a little bit like what Hasbro is doing with the GI Joe classified line. These figures feel immediately familiar without being, just a scaled up copy of, a vintage figure. And Man at Arms is going to be a really good example of that. When we get this guy out of the box, because of like the alt head and the swappable helmet and stuff like that, just details that we haven't seen on a figure before. I'm not that steeped in Masters of the Universe lore. I don't know the history of the vintage figures as much. I don't know, the design history and all that kind of stuff. But my understanding of New Eternia is that these are concept designs or prototype designs or early versions that might never have made it into figure form, but are sort of getting a I was going to say like a second life, but it's really a first life in some ways by way of New Eternia, and I'm digging it. I'm really digging it. The figures have been fantastic. I have had my issues with the figures. I still, the plastic still doesn't feel as good as other lines at this price point. The articulation doesn't feel as good as other figures at this price point. But I'm very hopeful for this Man at Arms because they have been getting consistently better. Each wave seems to be a little bit better than the last one, and so I'm cautiously optimistic that Man at Arms is gonna be is gonna be something special. I do like all the armor. I do like the removable helmets and things like that. So he may win me over. Um, all right, let's very quickly take a look at the packaging, and then I will get into the chat and see who's hanging out, and then we'll go from there. So very first thing, I think I could be wrong. There could have been a wave before this that had the new packaging, but I think this is new packaging for this wave. The big bland blue box is gone, and now we get artwork. We get a smaller window. This to me is more of a Masters of the Universe package, and I say that I say that having criticized the old packaging, it didn't feel He-Man enough for me. This feels more He-Man. Masterverse up on top there feels more He-Man. And I say He-Man because it'll always be He-Man for me. Masters of the Universe is still feels like a little bit different than what I remember as a kid. But it says Masters of the Universe. It is in a very small font there, but it is still there. The name has been moved to the front, which I think is a good move. The previous boxes, it was on the side. It was harder to see. You couldn't really see who was in the package if you got glare. But this is, I think, a considerable upgrade. The art wraps around, which is very nice. I think getting bigger art is always better. And then on the other side, we get, as again in a weird way, Very much like the GI Joe classified figures, we get sort of the artwork that sort of calls out the figure, and there you get, as I was mentioning, like the alternate head and the alternate helmet, which I just think is a really really cool thing that they've included. They also include some call outs to some of the details on the back there. Some of what we're going to see once we get this guy out of the box. You get a little bit of a bio there, and then you get the cross sell of the other figures available in this particular wave. But there it is. As I said, I think this is a big improvement packaging wise. Let's jump into the chat, see who's hanging out. Literally Action Figs is here. Thanos Copter, Red 5, and that's everybody that commented. But there's more people watching. Feel free to comment. I enjoy the discussion. I enjoy the comments. So. Literally Action Figs, they definitely need to work on the range of articulation. If they do that, they'd be top tier. That's yeah, the articulation in the plastic quality. The plastic has a weird hollowness to it. Or at least it has in previous figures, in previous waves. Red 5 says there are no AWOC figures, that's for sure. Yeah, and I'll be honest, I mean that's kind of become my benchmark. I know that the AWOC figures are a little bit more expensive than these are, but not by much. And so I consider them to be I consider them to be in pretty direct competition, with respect to the fact that one is Mattel and mass market and widely available in a 40-year-old IP, and one is a 4-year-old IP that's a small brand, and they don't really compare, but they do in my mind. Anyways, let's get this guy out of the box, because that's what we do with our action figures. I pre-cut the tape. I cheated a little bit. Well, this is different too. So they've gone again. There's a lot. It feels like they just took a GI Joe classified figure, and they were like, okay, how do we make our figure like that? Because it feels kind of more like a foot locker, which is what they do with the classified figures. This guy's in a plastic tray, but let's pull this out just to take a look. Oh, I think they're using different backgrounds for different characters, which is new. I think Trapjaw had a red background. That's interesting. It's before they were all gray too, so there's more color inside the box as well. You get a content list on the side there. Some instructions for what to do with the figure on the back, which is cool. I don't know that this is necessary, but I like that they're doing it. I'm looking at like, okay, plug that on the back. You can switch these. To me, that seems awfully straightforward, but I do appreciate that the effort is being made there. Okay, so we're gonna get the figure we have right there. We're gonna get the is it a mace and then a flail when you add the chain? Alternate head, alternate helmet, and some extra hands. So first off, I'm gonna open some of this stuff up. I think that's everything in there. I'm gonna cut this guy out, and then I'm gonna tighten up the shot. Enjoy the ASMR for a moment. Oh, that's attached. I just realized that every time I do something like this, especially when when I'm doing a video, I make just a little bit of noise, and I do that when I'm at work on phone calls too, when I'm sort of searching a computer for stuff, and I do it I do it on purpose. I do it so that the person that is, the audience in the case of a video, or the audience in the case of the person that I'm talking to on the phone, knows that I'm still here. Obviously, I'm still here when I'm doing the video, but on the phone you can't always tell. But I just realized now that when I do that, I kind of make the noise that Pee Wee Herman makes when he's, I think it's when he's wrapping up his bike in Pee Wee's Big Adventure. Pee Wee's Big Adventure. What's it called? It sounds right, but it doesn't sound right. Anyway, as I'm opening things, I'm kind of going. Yeah. Okay. So articulation, no big changes here. The arm still doesn't go straight. I don't know why. We still don't have a butterfly joint there. Don't know why. But I will say this plastic does feel a little bit better. It does seem, the finishing on the plastic seems a little bit better. It does still feel light. It does still feel light. And there is still weird things like the plastic. This green is a little bit different than this green, which makes me think that there's potentially two things going on. The durometer of these plastics might be slightly different, and they're using sort of the same amount of dyes, so the recipe doesn't quite work. Or they're kind of like casting them in separate batches, and that doesn't make sense to me, because why? That just makes it so that they're not going to match. He's got a drop down hip, which I've noticed because his hip kind of works funny. The hip is very loose. The knee is quite tight. But you get the double jointed elbow, double jointed knee. So everything's where it should be. It's odd. This is, I mean, I get it. This is a parts reuse thing. But you've got effectively like a gloved, like this is all gonna like a unitard. I don't know how does that work. So he's got, green on the leg, he's got green on the torso and the chest, he's got green on the arm, green on the hand. I imagine that this is all fabric, and even if it's stretchy fabric, you don't see that kind of like definition. There's no belly buttons and sort of cut abs when it's fabric. I just, and I know it's parts reuse. I know that's why they do it. But couldn't you have like fabric covered parts versus, orc skin? Like that's what it feels like. It feels like it could just as easily double as an orc. Um, but what can you do? What can you do? Altogether, I would say this is a good looking figure. The plastic does look good. The paint apps are decent. There's a little bit of a wash to the orange armor, so it doesn't look too orange. It's not just bright tangerine orange. There's a lot of spots that it's kind of, oh, what's going on here? Oh, that just comes off. Well, that's interesting. Does that mean that this will be reused for something else later? I don't know. I'd be okay with that. A palace guard that had a different piece on the back, maybe? I don't know. Anyway, I like that they've used mushroom pegs rather than the little slidey belt thing, the vintage inspired kind of slidey belt thing, 'cause that pops out all the time. They've done a similar thing with the armor that they did with Stratos's wing part. It does appear to have sort of a pivot at the elbow. That does appear to be strained by moving it. It's sort of an odd choice to me, but there it is. I don't know why they couldn't just do molded pieces, separate molded pieces, but I guess I'll never know. The little wrist bit rotates, which makes sense because I think, as I said, this is an arm that they probably use for other stuff. But yeah, Anyway, that's the figure. Let's jump back into the oh, and I forgot. I want to see. I know the helmet comes off, right? Does it helmet come off? It's on there really good. Or does the helmet only come off the other one? I don't know. I'll take a look in a sec. But as I said, I'm going to get this guy. I'm going to try to get this guy to stand. I don't know why he doesn't want to stand. Those drop down hips, I tell you, they're good sometimes, but he's got sort of a weird lean. Anyway, let me adjust the camera. All right, there we go. And I can adjust my light ever so slightly. Check in with you guys in the comments. Let's see what's going on here. Literally action figures, hollow, definitely, especially the torsos. Yes, yeah, they just don't have the same weight as some other figures do. Thanos, I miss the old rock inserts. I was quite fond of those as well. I kept them. I kept the inserts because they're great little sort of backdrops. I think what I'm actually going to do, because I think it would be pretty easy, is I'm going to try to recreate one of those in foam so that I can do it bigger, so that I can have it as a backdrop like this instead of this one all the time. But also, it's sort of it's a great backdrop for a bunch of different lines as well. So also don't understand the odd shape of their boxes, both new and old. Yeah, there is. Yeah, I mean, I think I don't know. I mean, somebody's working at Mattel getting paid to design packaging, so I guess they have to kind of come up with something different each time. Again, so few of these figures are probably purchased off the shelf that what difference does it make? But anyways, Cobweb Collector is here. What's going on, Cobb? He says, what I missed, does he hate it? No, I don't hate it. So far, I actually really like it. I really like Man at Arms. I just like the design. I'm not usually a fan of asymmetrical figures. But with Man at Arms, it kind of works because you kind of have like the shield side and the sword side, if that makes sense. And literally action figures, the shape is definitely a little extra for no reason. Yeah, it's funny, but it's, as I said, somebody's job is design packaging, and so I guess to keep them employed, they let them do that. Allison Troy is here as well. What's going on, Allison? Good to have you. Thanos would love if they added butterfly joints. So would I, because I don't think it would. I don't think it's a complicated or difficult thing to add in 2024. But what do I know? Thanos, that's a good point. If you would get that definition if your unitard was was properly fitted. And Cobweb says I never popped that back piece off. Yeah, mine it was a little crooked, and when I went to adjust it, I noticed that it moved. So it's interesting. It may, I'll be totally honest, that may just be 100% so that they didn't have to paint this piece. But then, I mean, they painted that fur there. They painted the little sigil on the back gold. It doesn't show up very well, but they've sculpted underneath it as well. So that it definitely makes me think that there's probably something going on, reuse wise in the future. But like I said, what do I know? I'm not a Motu guy. Yeah. So there he is. Let's take a look at the accessories, because the accessories are kind of cool for this guy. I am pretty excited. As I said, I always like removable helmets, but we'll start with the basic stuff. The orc hands in a fist, which is nice. We get the alternate head. Now, I think, and probably any one of you guys watching could correct me on this. I think the concept art for Man at Arms may have looked more like this, and then by the time the figure came out and the cartoon came out, it looked more like that with the mustache. I mean, but I think he was unmustached. I think there's an episode of the cartoon where a young man at arms is uh, unmustached as well, but I could be mistaken. There's the alternate helmet. I think this helmet is more similar to the vintage one than the one that comes on that head. But like I said, I don't know. I don't know any of this stuff. I don't think I have a man at arms in my Origins collection, so I can't confirm or deny. We get the club, which is, you know, altogether a very sort of primitive weapon, but what I do like about Masters of the Universe is that they always include, like, it looks like a futuristic version of a very, very simple medieval sort of weapon. Just in terms of the shapes, in terms of the design, in terms of the colors and things like that. It feels equal parts. It feels equal parts science fiction and um, you know, medieval fantasy. And then we get this alternate, which I like that they've. I would have liked this to be, you know, bent, like a bendy wire in here, but I'm happy that it does have shape. I'm happy that it has shape because you'll be able to pose it like this. So it's molded plastic. It is flexible, so you could heat it up and probably get it to hold a pose for toy photography or something like that. If you needed, you know, more of an action thing where you needed it to look like it was swinging or what have you. But that's just a cool accessory, and this is presumably just going to pop right off. Yep. And this will just pop right on. Just like that, and away you go. And again, I think I saw the like concept art, and I think there might have been this sort of chain version in the concept art. So I think that's probably why we get that. But yeah, either version is kind of cool. The alternate head has got me thinking, do I need an alternate, do I need a second one? But I think I'll wait and see if they do like an Eternian Palace guard, and you know, like a deluxe figure with more accessories or something like that. Because I think they could. And like I said, you know, they've got different heads and different helmets, so they totally could and just sort of repaint them ever so slightly. But yeah. Um, Thanos says actually didn't get this one, got the Revelations one and Old Man Duncan. I got from Derek, who also works for Spiro Toys. He hooked me up with Old Man Duncan, and it's not a complete one, but I got like the figure and most of the accessories. I still think I want that one though. I still think that like I could build out like an Eternian guards just by getting different Man at Arms. And as I said, I really like Man at Arms. I like the green and orange. I like the asymmetry, even though I normally don't. Um, so I think they're all good. And when I was sort of making my list of Masterverse figures that I intended to pick up, every version of Man at Arms made the list. But you know, I can't collect all the things. I say that all the time. And so what I sort of decided was, I got that Old Man Duncan. It's incomplete. I'm happy with it for now. If it pops up at some point and I can add it to my collection, I will. If I can get the Revelation one, there's a good chance I will. If they do Man of War, I I think I'd have to get that one. Because again, it's just a really cool design. I like all the designs from Revolution. Um, but yeah, this is a really really great figure, and I'm gonna move him back a little bit so that when the comments are up, we can still see them. There we go. Cobweb says, I think the Vicron jetpack would fit in those back slots. I will take your word for it. I have no interest in Vicron. I did not buy him, and I have no intention of buying him. Allison says, mustache was Filmation. Original figure had no mustache. The vintage figure had no mustache? I thought the vintage figure did have a mustache. But what do I know? Let's see. Gloves has just checked. Nope, but close. Yeah, Cobb says, I'd like the video only because Amanda said so. Amanda's watching TV in the other room. She's not even watching the video. She's watching Great British Bake Off with her sister. Which I will be joining them to watch because I love Noel Fielding. Let's see. Thanos says you can use the Masterverse heads on Origins bodies too. Really? It's the same. That's actually really smart on Mattel's part. They must look funny though, just because design wise they're not even that similar. But Cobweb says Man of War is already announced with pictures. Well, okay. I'm staying away from the Masterverse news on purpose because I think it's easier for me to just see them for sale, and if I get them, I get them. Staying away from the news cycle for Masterverse means that I stay away from the hype a little bit for Masterverse. But as I said, the new Eternia stuff, I'm really, really digging. I knew I wanted a merman, but I didn't know which version I wanted until I basically, in my list, I had actually put new Eternia merman long before it was announced, knowing full well that it would probably get announced. And then when it was, I was 100% down. That version looks, to me, that version looks really, really good. But as I said, the new Eternia stuff is a ton of fun. I'm really digging it. Now okay, now I'm gonna play with this guy a little bit. Feel free to sort of continue your commenting in the chat there, and I'll try to sort of jump back in there. This has got to come off, right? It seems weird that this one wouldn't come off. First of all, let me get this one on, this head. That was underwhelming. It did not have that satisfying pop of it going on, which is kind of odd, but okay, so the helmet definitely locks right into place. It's going to be a very, very snug fit. Maybe that's why the other one won't come off. Oh yeah, when that locks in, it definitely locks in. So I'm thinking that this one has probably got the same thing going on. Let's see here. Oh yeah, it definitely comes off. It definitely. Yeah, so that comes off, so you can have alternate head. But it's the same. So it's got all this sculpting work to it. These three lines effectively lock in to grooves inside the helmet, which is genius. And then even you can sort of see it there. This sculpted earpiece fits very, very perfectly into sculpt work on the inside of that. So I mean, you're not going to be able to use this helmet for any head that doesn't have this sort of hood to it, but theoretically they could do alternate faces and just change the face, and even just by using different paint colors or whatever, they could 100% do that. But it's such a like it's such a positive engagement once you get it locked in there. There, it's locked there. It's locked in. That's nice. Like that's I think that's a way better interface than I've seen with like most of the what the Hasbro stuff is done with GI Joe. None of those helmets fit properly. This one fits perfectly. Um, that's a good looking helmet. They both look good. Like both heads look really, really good. The paintwork's pretty good. The mustached one is a little, there's something a little bit off, but it's sort of like an uncanny valley kind of off. Like it's not bad. It's done well. It's painted well. But both helmets look good. I think I think for the purpose of display, I think the new Eternia version, the which, as I said, I believe is like the more of the concept art version of the helmet. Now I know that it's mustachioed man at arms is sort of the standard now. But let's get this in his hand. Get him somewhat posed in this limited articulation scheme that we get with Masterverse, so that he can stand. He can stand here. I just want to full disclosure. This is not the first video that I've done today because I already opened this guy to go with Man at Arms. So I've already done the video for that guy. The review on Trapjaw, I will, as I said, I recorded it, so I just got to edit it and get it posted. He's scared. That's not how I wanted him to look. But now he's not going to stand up. So I recorded a video for Trapjaw, and I will give you a little bit of a spoiler. He's awesome. Trapjaw is awesome. I still have my complaints about the plastic, but as I said, I think they're really making a lot of progress in terms of the quality of the sculpt. They do seem to be improving the articulation a little bit, ever so slightly each time. But these guys might very well be the best Masterverse figures that I've got. I was being a little bit coy about the torso. Clearly, it's the same torso for these two guys. But as I said, one is, I think, but now I'm second guessing. Is Trapjaw got blue flesh, or is he wearing a unitard? Like, man, oh, now I don't know. I have so many more questions than I have answers now. Anyways, no Chewing is here. What's going on? How are you? Good to have you. Happy Wednesday or happy Thursday, depending on time zone. I was gonna say how far ahead, but I guess it is 10 after 9. So I guess for some people it is tomorrow. Some people do live in the future. Let's see. Red 5 Trapjaw looks amazing. He absolutely is amazing. Just one thing that I gotta show because it's so weird and kind of gross. There's like it's kind of like fleshy underneath there. I don't know if it's like, yeah, it's just cool. That's just a cool detail. I like that. But the figure is fantastic. It's a great figure. These are definitely figures where design is the design kind of wins me over. The quality of the figures isn't as good, as I said, as some other lines, as some other figures, but they look so dang cool, and they're just really fun. So I'm happy to have them in my collection. These figures did, of course, come from eCollectibles. So if you're thinking about picking these guys up, definitely check them out. I believe they still have these in stock, but Cobweb says it's more of his look from concept when he was going to be named Paladin. So that's for Man at Arms. Okay. Yeah, I know that the story back to Lords of Power, I think was the original name. Like there was some changes. That's to be expected. That's true of everything, right? Allison says Trapjaw has blue skin. His face turned yellow when Skeletor did that to his face. Okay, there you go. So yeah, he had some color change as a result. There's a lot of weird, Skeletor, didn't always have a skull face. Trapjaw didn't always have a trap jaw face. Snout Spout wasn't always a cybernetic elephant head. Like Masters of the Universe is kind of dark. It's like a lot darker than I realized. Certainly as a kid, watching He-Man, uh, you know, lying on the floor on a Saturday morning watching He-Man. Anyway. That's basically all I got tonight, guys. Just one figure to open up. So we're at 38 minutes, give or take. If you guys want to chat for a few more minutes, we absolutely will. If the chat winds down, I'll wrap it up. Cobweb says Eternia is a messed up place to live. I guess so. Allison says, way back when Trapjaw was designed, he was green and yellow all over. The toy had a deco change. Yes. And they've done that deco for the toy, right? Like do you know if that would have been, like, I know that you see that a lot. You see that a lot in cartoon animation where they don't do characters that are sort of all black, and they end up translating to either like silver or blue, or in some cases even white, because you can't animate black. Is Trapjaw one of those things where like Trapjaw is blue in the cartoon because it looks better than like a yellow Trapjaw would be, maybe? Allison says mini comics Trapjaw. Yeah, I know. So I know that the yellow version is sort of like the mini comics version, but like would the change have been related to the cartoon? And then did sort of did the cartoon, like, it feels to me like the Funimation cartoon kind of took precedence in some ways. Like if they changed something for the cartoon, that became in some ways like the normal version of some things. And Cobweb says that's why Trapjaw's arm was pink in the cartoon. Yeah, exactly. You can't, like, it's very hard to animate a black metallic arm. And Allison says no, Mattel changed the colors at some point before Filmation. Okay. I mean, for me, the blue and pink, and I think this looks really good. So I mentioned this and I'll mention it here. There's kind of like a purplish hue to the arm, which I don't think it's going to translate, but there is. I think they do sort of keep that spirit in the metallic bits for the arm, at least the pink in spirit there, but it has to be just in the right light. It's subtle. It's a nuanced pinkness. Evelyn skin went from normal flesh tone to bright yellow, while Filmation translated it to a softer yellow. Yeah, I'll be honest, I like all the versions. I think I wish there was a version because it would make collecting easier, but I do like that there are all of those versions sort of out there in different forms. So until artists would make choices, then marketing would change the names and select colors that would appeal more at retail to kids. Okay. That makes sense, right? So like the concept art doesn't always end up being sort of what gets, rendered in physical form. That makes sense. There's got to be things too that just, from an artist perspective look cool, and then from a sort of practical perspective maybe they're just not possible. I don't know. Maybe yellow plastic at the time just didn't work very well for what they needed it to be or something. I don't know. That kind of stuff changes over time. So, all right. I'm going to call it an evening. Um, because it's still early. The night is young. I can still record another video. I have got an absolute stockpile of stuff to open. So I'm going to, what else am I gonna unbox tonight? I'm not sure. I don't know what to unbox next. But I have a whole bunch of stuff, as I said, stockpiled. I've got some GI Joe stuff. I've got some Dragon Ball stuff. I've got some Mythic Legions. I've got some Super 7 Ninja Turtle stuff. So I got all that going on. It's Yojo June coming up. The AWOC backer kit is still going on. It is an exciting time to be a toy collector. Any spoilers on who's next? Who's next to be opened? For me, I don't know. As I said, I don't know. I gotta get through a lot of stuff. I'm planning to do during Yojo June. I think most Wednesday nights when I do live, it'll probably be GI Joe stuff, but we'll see. Allison, yellow plastic was likely so moms wouldn't so easily realize they were just buying another teal-out with a different head. Fair point. Thanos said, exciting and expensive. You're absolutely right. I can't collect all the things, but every once in a while it feels like there's just an absolute avalanche of stuff that comes through that I can't pass on. So it's not a terrible situation to be in. I will say that. Nobody's making me buy any of this stuff, so I'm not complaining whatsoever. I'm just saying I got a lot of stuff to open. It's a blessing and a curse. It's much more of a blessing. Yeah, anyway. It's been an absolute pleasure. It's always fun hanging out with people and talking about toys. You guys in the chat, Masters of the Universe was not something that I was buying, 6 months ago, but I've gone pretty hard, and I'm looking forward to more. And it's largely because a lot of you guys are big Masters of the Universe fans, and have helped me find figures or sort of suggested things that I would like that you've already got, and so on. So it's just really cool. And as I always say, like it's always more fun to open friends. It's always more fun to open toys with friends. And there's sort of an added layer when you're opening toys that that your friends are into and have sort of pushed you towards. So thank you guys for that. Until next time, bye-bye.